The long lines significantly hampered those who, did it as a favor and don't feel that 4 hours is worth standing to cast their ballot. And we have to now look at how to make the voting process easier, not hampering. It's not difficult to vote because once you get in the polling station, it's simply to mark your X. But the process getting there and instructions given were long, tedious. I mean, I don't know. I am maybe not afraid with what can be done to improve the process. But what we're saying is that the lines were just too long. Too many people spent too much time just casting an X, and it felt like a burden for some to simply give a chance to someone. Why should that be after you fought so hard for adult suffrage, universal adult suffrage? Now it's becoming a hamper to vote. Not a hamper in the sense that you cannot vote, but the process takes so long, lengthy. Lines, people stood there for hours upon hours. We had to send for chairs for the elderly. It has become tedious. How do you maneuver around that?
Your complaint in terms of the long lines and the long wait, that was something that was, right across the media in terms of what was happening on the day. A lot of complaints about that. So do you think the EOJ failed Jamaicans on election day? Because even just this week, there was a report from CAFE, the Citizens Action for Free and Fair Elections, that said people that were in line to vote on election day did not get to vote. As at the close of polls, the EOJ did not allow them to vote, which is a breach, actually.
Well, I know the EOJ may not get significant funding in terms of preparation for location the location of the polling stations, because as you know, it's very expensive to run an election. So with the payment of workers, inclusive of the printing of materials for election. But what is also true to note is that many of these polling stations are not equipped to handle the kind of crowd that we are seeing happening at the polling stations. The polling stations were moved primarily to government institutions, whether clinics, schools, but many of these schools don't even have a pazer or a shaded area where people can stand up. One particular polling station in my constituency, the one in Pedro Plains at the basic school, the people stood in the line for hours without shade. Wow. No, you would really have to love your party or love your candidate to stand in those lines. We started handing out umbrellas. We said, let's get a tent. But at that point in time, it's so hard to logistically find these resources when you're focusing on trying to get out voters. And what that also tells me is that there is no the kind of humanitarian need that needs to be instilled into those polling stations. We've still not escalated the voting process to being democratic. Because if a person cannot, it's not just free and fair. No, it's humanitarian conditions, humane conditions. If a man has to stand in line and risk his health to vote, it no longer becomes about free and fair. It becomes about humane.
Yes.
Some people started fainting. We had to be handing out water in the line. Now, if your party doesn't have that kind of resource, it shouldn't take a man to faint to give you an X. And so I'm not blaming the EOJ. I'm just saying that greater insight needs to be employed in how the process goes about.